I had 2 bad legs at that, shortly after we got to that jungle, because I got a bite off on my right leg, and I don't know what it was, but it bled for some reason or other, and it never healed. And then the left leg I caught on some poisonous bamboo, which had a spike on it about 1.5 inches long. The bamboo, the jungle was full of bamboo and trees, big trees, but this bamboo was you don't have to scratch yourself on it, and you'd got a bad abscess and sore. Jungle ulcers were a common thing, and once one of them started, with nothing, with no medical supplies at all, not even a bandage. I were only on there about, 3-4 months, and my legs got to such a state that I had to join the rest of the lads in a camp lower down river, and they were taking legs off like nobody's business. And it weren't a nice thing to lose your legs. And I learned afterwards, quite some time afterwards, that we had no anaesthetics. So legs were being taken off, appendix were being taken out, all sorts of things without any anaesthetic. They tried to kid us by putting a needle in my back with water in, and that's all it was, water. So that part of life wasn't nice. Well, if you can imagine a butcher's shop, you can imagine what was going on there. There were no nice, clean hospital with all the modern equipment and everything. The only saw they had was a dirty old thing that was being used for chopping and cutting wood for the railway, which they used. And the idea was that 3 or 4 orderlies would hold you down whilst they amputated your leg or did whatever they had to do. So it meant that some lived through it, some didn't. But that's a long story, that. It took a long time to tell a proper story on that. There is a little bit that connected with that side of things were only in September of last year, we were going on a outing from the Lesmer home, and Peter, the coach driver, stopped me. He said, "There's a chappie in the home on convalescence." He says he was on that railway you were on. And I asked his name. He said, "Hamilton." And I thought, I don't know any Hamiltons, but I've heard that name before. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he arranged to find this man when we came back, and he gave him my phone number. And the day after, he phoned up and he said, "I understand you were on that Burma Thailand Railway." I said, "Yes, I was." He says, "Where were you?" I said, "Well, I were in Chungkai when I lost both my legs." He said, "Who took your legs off, Markowitz or Dunlop?" I thought, well, he must have been there to ask a question like that. So I said, "Markowitz." He said, "I was one of his medics." He said, "I held you down when they took your legs off." I didn't know that. That was 60-odd years ago. It's a strange feeling when you've got 2 legs that's driving you mad in pain, and then suddenly you go through this experience, and then the pain stops. And it was like being lifted up, falling down and being lifted up. It was a strange feeling, but I had a few nights' sleep after that, which I weren't getting before. But there were lots of men lost legs, lots of them. Not painful as such. They were sore until they healed and everything. But once you've lost a limb, it doesn't end there. you see, even now, 65 years ago, only last week I had 2 bad nights with nerve pains. With your left leg was always the worst, and it went mad. So I'd had no sleep for 2 nights. And that happens periodically. Not too often, hopefully, but that does happen. And I don't know why. And doctors seem to think that in some cases it's ill in the mind, but I wish they'd say that to me.